Long ago, in a village deep in the heart of Igbo land, there lived a great king named Ago. He was loved by his people, for he was kind, good, and wise. But there was one thing the king wanted more than anything: a son to carry on his name. The gods finally blessed Ago and his queen with a baby boy. They named him Chimdi, which means "My God is alive." The entire village celebrated the birth of the prince. The people danced and sang, knowing that Chimdi would one day be their king. But there was a legend in the land, a story told by the elders about the forest that surrounded their land. They said that deep in the forest lived the spirits of the ancestors. These spirits were powerful and ancient, and they didn't like it when people wandered too far into their homes. One day, when Chimdi was still a little boy, he was playing near the edge of the forest. His nanny has warned him many times not to go too close, but Chimdi was curious. He saw a butterfly with wings as bright as the sun and decided to follow it. The butterfly fluttered deeper into the woods, and without thinking, Chimdi chased after it. As he ran, the trees grew thicker and the air became cold. The butterfly disappeared, and suddenly, Chimdi realized he was lost. He called out for help, but there was no answer. The forest was silent, too silent. Fear gripped his heart, and he began to cry. Back in the village, the queen noticed that Chimdi was missing. She searched everywhere but couldn't find him. Panic spread throughout the village as everyone joined in the search. The king sent his strongest warriors into the forest to look for his son, but they returned empty-handed. Days turned into weeks, and still there was no sign of Chimdi. The people began to whisper as the spirit has taken the prince. They said the forest was angry that it had stolen the boy to punish the king for not respecting the land. The king and queen were heartbroken. They prayed to the gods, offering sacrifices and begging their son's return, but the gods remained silent. The villagers mourned, and soon the once joyful songs were replaced with cries of sorrow. One night, many years later, a strange man appeared at the edge of the forest. His hair was long and wild, and his clothes were made of leaves and animal skins. The villagers gathered round, whispering in fear. But when the man stepped into the light, they gasped in shock. It was Chimdi. He was no longer the little boy they remembered. His eyes were dark and distant, and his voice was cold. The king and queen rushed to embrace their son, but Chimdi did not recognize them. He spoke in a strange language, one that no one understood. The elders said that Chimdi had been taken by the spirits and raised in the forest. He was no longer the prince they knew. He belonged to the forest now. The villagers were afraid, and they begged the king to send Chimdi back into the woods. But Agu refused to lose his son a second time. As the days passed, strange things began to happen in the village. Crops withered, animals disappeared, and the once clear rivers turned dark and murky. The villagers believed it was because of Chimdi's return. They said the forest was angry that the prince had been taken away from it. In the end, the king had no choice. With tears in his eyes, he led Chimdi back to the edge of the forest. The prince stood there, staring into the dark trees, as if it was waiting for something. And then, without a word, he walked into the woods and disappeared. The villagers say that no one night you can still hear Chimdi's voice in the wind, calling out from the forest. They say the spirits never really let him go, that he remains there, a prince of the forest, forever lost to the world of men.